Thank you very much, Tim, and thank you, George, and thank you to everyone on the task force for giving us this opportunity to present to you. We have been working, obviously, over the last several weeks trying to get ready and be prepared for the right opportunity to come forward and present our plan and our desires with respect to reopening. You know, we've worked with the governor and the governor's staff. We've worked with the mayor and the staff at the county. We've taken a lot of direction from Dr. Pino. And I appreciate, before we opened our City Walk complex partially last week, Dr. Pino came out and visited and saw all of the procedures that we have put in place firsthand and gave us a thumbs up that he was satisfied that we were doing all the things that not only we had said we would do, but all the things that should be happening. I want to let everyone know that we had Dr. Pino and some of the county officials out this morning to go through our theme parks in detail to have that same kind of review. And I believe everything was positive. I'm sure Dr. Pino's on here. He'll have his own comments when I'm done. Secondly, we did send a official letter to the mayor at 1:00 with a copy of the plan that I'm now going to take you through. And just to let everyone know, we've asked to be able to open our parks beginning on June the 1st. Now, this would be a gradual capacity managed opening. We're going to manage capacity not only across the resort, but within each and every attraction and food venue and merch venue. And not only that, but we're going to ramp up slowly in terms of making sure that all the procedures and all the practices that we are putting in place actually work. So when I ask for June 1, we're not going to open to the public on June the 1st. We will open on June the 1st and June the 2nd and just have some of our own team members come in and allow us to vet everything that we're doing to make sure that it works and to get whatever learnings we can in a controlled environment. Then on the 3rd and the 4th, we would be doing some invited guests, some annual pass holders and others, again, to be able to stress the system and make sure that it works. And then we would hope to be opening to the public on June the 5th. So John McReynolds, who is on the call as well, is going to put up our deck so I can walk through the deck. I do want, Mayor, I do want to apologize. We have a default function when we put together presentations here that identifies our presentations as trade secrets. And I neglected to delete that on the copy that I sent earlier. I have now sent you the correct copy. Anything that we're sharing here obviously is going to be in the public domain. They're not trade secrets. It's a default function of how we prepare what we prepare. So I apologize on that in advance, but you do now have the correct deck. John, if you could put the deck up.
There you are.
Thank you. So what we've done is we've gone through our entire operation and mapped out what we call the guest journey. So every single point of contact with us with respect to a guest, from the time before they arrive, when they think about coming, and any pre-arrival communications that would happen via our website, via social media, via a ticket purchase, etc., all the way through the process, and try to identify every single touch point that we would have with a guest so that we can keep them safe. And what we've coined for ourselves internally are what we're calling the 3 S's, which is screening, sanitation, and spacing standards. And then also, as much as possible, we want to create touchless experiences wherever we can. So with respect to guests, we're going to communicate with them throughout this process, and I'll get into some of those details in a couple of pages. So on pre-arrival communication, on our website, on any communication that we have with anyone who's be thinking about coming here, we're going to make it very clear what we intend to do with respect to trying to keep them safe, and also what our expectations of our guests are, and I'll get into those in a moment. But we are expecting them to understand that some things are going to be different, and there are going to be procedures in place that we're going to ask them to cooperate with as we go through the journey of them being here with us. We're also going to have signage throughout the resort that will start from the moment you arrive at the toll booth at the parking garage and carry all the way through, and it will be frequent, it will be very clear, it will be very demonstrable, and it will be reinforced because we will have our employees, what we call ambassadors, scattered throughout our resort to be able to help people understand what procedures are in place, how they can take advantage of them, answer any questions, and those people will be everywhere. They will be extremely visible. And then we have a mobile app that we cover the resort with, and all of the messaging that will be out there, both on the website and when you arrive, will also be available in terms of the mobile app. So if we can go to the next page, John. We've done the exact same thing with respect to what we call our team member journey. From the time when we schedule folks and they're coming in, we have them doing self-temperature checks every day. We have staggered our parking lots so that no two cars are parked next to each other, so we can create social distance from the moment people arrive. We've done the same thing in our guest parking lots as well. We are doing temperature checks for all of our team members every day, and we will be doing temperature checks for all of our guests on arrival every day, as we're currently doing with respect to our City Walk opening. We have created a tremendous amount of new guest procedures and SOPs for our team members, and we will begin the process of that training this weekend so that we can train people and get ready to go. We've identified all the guest interaction points that we have, and we are scripting those so we make sure the guests get the right information as much as they possibly can, and that our team members are provided all the information they need to make sure that they can answer all the guest questions. We're using mobile food ordering back of house as well as front of house so that folks can have contactless purchases in terms of getting their food. We're staggering breaks. We have social distanced all our break rooms, and we're making sure that we've got social distancing throughout our back of house as well as our front of house. We've increased our wardrobe procedures to make sure that people can feel confident that the wardrobe they have is their wardrobe. There's not sharing of wardrobes. We're allowing folks to take them home, et cetera. And we're encouraging our folks, when they're not working with us, to try to follow the same kinds of procedures and guidelines with respect to social distancing and crowds and everything else that are all the safe procedures out there, so that they don't increase their risk of becoming exposed to the virus, whether they're here or whether they're at home. So this is trying to summarize all of our preventative measures on one page. There is a lot here, and I can tell you there isn't a lot behind this page in terms of all the specifics around all the standard operating procedures, so that we make sure it is clear what we're going to do. I'm going to highlight a few of those, and then obviously when I get done, I'll be happy to take any questions. As I said, we're going to do guest temperature checks at all of our main entrances, and we are going to require not only all of our team members to be in masks, but we're going to require that guests be in masks as well. If a guest arrives without a mask, we will provide a free disposable mask for them if they did not bring their own. We are, for example, with respect to parking, going to close our valet operation. We don't think it is a good idea right now for our team members to be getting into people's cars, whether from the team member perspective or the guest perspective. With respect to our attractions and all of our entertainment offerings, as I said, we're going to manage capacity, and we're going to ramp up very slowly in terms of how many people we allow in each day to each park. But we are also going to manage that capacity across each and every venue that we have. We have taken our industrial engineering team, and they have helped laid out how we can do social distancing in queue lines, in restaurants, in merchandise stores. And based upon that, we've been able to readjust our capacity ride by ride, food outlet by food outlet, so that we understand what we will be able to do. And that has bubbled up to what we believe is a safe attendance maximum that we will manage effectively, just as we manage now. I mean, I think folks know we get pretty busy around Halloween Horror Nights, and I hope we get busy this year again. We get very busy during the holidays, and we are able to manage capacity across the resort and also within each park to make sure that we don't overcrowd. We will use those exact same procedures that we've always used. It's just the numbers we'll be managing to will be significantly less than what we would do in a normal situation. We're going to close interactive play areas because we can't find a way to adequately social distance play areas where children will be, and we don't want them to be in a situation where they could potentially get exposed. We're going to eliminate most water and mist elements. On some of our rides, we do mist people at certain points. It's part of the expectation. we're going to reduce or eliminate those so that we don't create a situation where there could be some way of increasing the capacity of the virus to transmit. We have implemented virtual line. We have, for example, in our water park, all of our lines are virtual lines. You stand in the line, but you don't stand in the line. We have taken that technology and we are using it and will use it for a number of our attractions in both of our dry parks. Therefore, you will be able to stand in a virtual line, which will enable us to create an even better environment with respect to social distancing. We are eliminating our single rider line. We use single rider lines at a number of our popular attractions so that we can maximize capacity and throughput by using single riders. Well, that's not what we're trying to accomplish now. So we will make sure within our rides, we will be spacing people in terms of rows. We'll be keeping parties together, but we will not be commingling parties at any point in time. And therefore, we're not going to have any single rider lines that would have someone sitting with a party that they haven't arrived with. We're eliminating post-show meet and greets. When we have our live shows, usually our performers come down and they meet and mingle with folks, and we don't think that that's appropriate right now. We'll keep them on stage. We'll allow people to take pictures, but we will not have them come down and mingle with guests in order to be able to keep them socially distanced. In our restaurants, all of our menus have been converted to single use. We will no longer hand out menus and collect them. All of our menus will be paper, and when the guest is done with them, we will be disposing of them. Well, as I said earlier, we have mobile food ordering set up for all of our venues, so that will allow people to be touchless in terms of how they order if they would like to do that. We also have the ability to do contactless payments, either things such as Apple Pay or Google Pay, or within our app, if someone signs on to our app and puts their information in and sets up their account, they can use our mobile app to be able to charge contactlessly. We're not going to refuse to accept cash, but we're going to try to minimize it as much as possible. And where there are places where we're going to accept cash, we're going to put in additional precautions that are necessary to make sure we can safeguard both guests and team members. As I said, team members they're going to self-temperature check at home. They're going to be asked questions when they arrive each day with respect to making sure they haven't been exposed, et cetera. And then we're going to temperature check them when they arrive as well. And they're all going to wear face coverings. And then, as I said, we're going to have our ambassadors scattered throughout the park who will be able to answer information, help people understand, here's where you can go to wash your hands. Here's where you can go to get hand sanitizer. We will have hand sanitizer available at the entrance and the exit of every attraction, every food venue, and every merch venue. We will have all of our team members that are in guest contact areas be washing their hands at least every 30 minutes. We will increase the frequency of breaks of our team members so that they can wash their hands. And also, if they can get to a place where we can safely social distance them, they can take their masks off for a moment and then put them back on when they go back out onto a guest facing. John, if you could flip to page 5. One of the things we think is very important is we want people to know before you go exactly what we're going to expect, exactly what we're going to provide from the point of view of our team members, but also what we're going to expect of guests. So these are examples of the signs that you will see on our website. You will see them at our toll booths. You will see them in our parking garage. You will see them throughout our entrances and throughout the parks to tell people exactly what we expect with respect to temperature checking, face covering, washing of hands, social distancing. John, if you flip to page 6, these are more signs that you will see throughout the destination, again, reminding people with respect to practicing safe health practices. And on the right-hand side, there's floor demarcations. We have installed these at every one of our venues that are setting up the proper social distancing for our guests. We're not going to leave it to them to have to figure that out. And in most cases, we are abiding by 6 foot, but in many cases, we have made it even longer so that we can effectively manage queues and when you have turnarounds, et cetera, which I'll show you that in 2 pages. So these will be throughout the park. These are already throughout the park. We have installed them everywhere. We have them in City Walk for anyone that has been to City Walk since we've been open last week, and they are permeated throughout the park in all guest areas. These are an example of communication handouts that we will be handing out to any and all guests with respect, again, to remind them of all the practices that we are doing and all the things we are complying with. These will be available in other languages as well. This is all, again, to make sure we're communicating with folks how we want to keep them safe, but also what we're expecting of them in order to help themselves keep themselves safe. And then the last page, this is an example of an attraction queue entry. This is the social distancing plan. This is not only what we're using, but these will be posted in attractions to help people understand how we're social distancing in queues and how we've set it up, and help to explain everything that's on the floor so it'll be easy for them to follow. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, John. Any questions from the task force? Okay, I'm not hearing any. Appreciate the presentation, and would also like to call on John Weiss, Director of Orange County's Planning, Environmental, and Development Services Department. Inspector Weiss will provide results from the on-site inspection that was conducted at Universal Orlando this morning. Thank you, John. You're recognized.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to be here. So obviously with the region's major tourism attractions being closed, all of them were asked to put together a plan to effectuate their reopening. So pursuant to Governor DeSantis' executive order, and I think it was 20-123, that plan should include the proposed date for the resumption of their operations and guidelines to ensure both guest and staff safety. So Mayor Demings, following that, had asked Orange County staff to perform field inspections to verify that those attractions each had developed that plan and verified their ability to implement and readiness to implement the plan as was presented. So over the last few days, staff was provided copies of these reopening plans, and there's operating policies and procedures and manuals. Staff had performed the inspection for the Universal Parks and Resort for Orlando actually earlier this morning on May 21st, 2020. The four of us that were out there from the county team included Dr. Raul Pino, a health officer with the Department of Health, Dr. Christian Zuber, Orange County Emergency Medical Services Medical Director, myself as the Director of Orange County Planning, Environmental and Development Services, and Shane Gerwig, the Orange County Building Official. And basically our task and challenge was to review Universal's readiness to implement the plan as it was just presented to all of you. I don't need to go into the details here. I think Mr. Sproul did a great job stepping through not just the slides and the deck that they had prepared, but all of the elements that he touched on were fully explained to staff today. And that, of course, included the health screening, guest arrival, ticketing, queue management, restaurant operations, and it wasn't just, of course, for the public-facing, party arrival and point of sale, but also including the back of house operations, guest servers and food preparation and other types of things, and then dealing with the other traffic areas and queue management, as Mr. Sproles had mentioned. So, in summary, the Orange County team had no significant concerns regarding Universal's readiness or ability to implement and that they've prepared. And with that, Orange County staff, I believe Shane Gerwig's also on the call. If there's any questions of the Orange County team, we're happy to take those.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Appreciate those comments. Any questions for county staff?
Yes, we have one question for John McReynolds from Barbara Jenkins.
Thank you. Actually, my question is it can wait until after the vote. It has no implications for the vote. I'm just curious to get some insight from him since they've been the first entity to use the temperature checking. I can wait until after the vote.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. We'll come back to you. Any other questions for the task force members? Okay, so we'll move to a motion, and I'm looking for someone to make a motion for approval of Universal Orlando's reopening plan as presented.
So moved, Jenkins.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Do I have a second?
Second, Chair Denham.
I second to roll.
Second, Alex.
Dan, thank you. Appreciate that. Are there any discussion?
And then,
Okay, Lucas, I believe you were.
Were there any members who abstained or recused themselves from the voting? I didn't know if I heard that announced at all.
Yeah, I think that's what we were getting to. Lucas, you want to handle that?
yes, sir. So before full vote, we have a first and a second on the motion. We have no discussion. And so for those who need to recuse themselves from this vote, would you please unmute your audio and indicate so we can note it for the record.
Mr. Chair, this is Chris Earl. I excuse myself from the vote.
Chris Earl?
Mr. Chair, this is Thomas Masson from Walt Disney World Resort. I abstain and recuse myself from the vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Dan Ward with Curling Pin, and I abstain.
This is Rich Costalis, and I have a conflict, and I will excuse myself.
Hi, this is Brad Gilmore, and I would like to abstain the vote.
Okay, Lucas, it looks like we have our abstentions.
Yes, sir.
Would do you have the roll in front of you to be able to call the roll call vote?
I do not. This requires a roll call vote. I think that the recusal of specific people in advance, I think we're okay to proceed with aye or nay, and no specifically for anybody that votes in opposition to add that to our record.
Okay, we can do that. So if you all would please unmute.
Tim, I'm sorry. If we have the county attorney, I just want to make sure that we have the legal way in here. The county attorney is on the line.
Georgiana?
Yes, I'm here.
Are we okay to proceed with the vote?
Yes, we have the identified members who have declared a conflict.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And Tim Chuckwood, just for clarity, we are only voting on universal at this point, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, because I'll have to abstain when we get to the other parts.
Okay. Yep. At this time, we're just on Universal's reopening plan as presented. So at this time, I want to call for a vote, and I'd ask you to unmute, and those in support, please say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you very much. Now we'll turn any opposed. Please unmute and state a like sign. Hearing none, Lucas, please show unanimous adoption of the reopening plan for Universal Orlando. Thank you both for the presentation. And Dr. Jenkins, I'll now recognize you for your question.
Thank you, Tim. John, I just wanted to ask for the good of the group, and certainly for those of us who are probably going to need to consider things such as temperature scanning for large numbers. Tell us any lessons learned or anything that you immediately can share regarding those temperature check stations and what you experienced at City Walk. I'm just curious if you're comfortable sharing anything.
Dr. Jenkins, this is John Sproles. I can tell you it's obviously only been a week. We have had well over 30,000 interactions. It has gone extremely smoothly. The technology works great. We have only had a handful of people who have registered as over the 100.4 CDC regulation. And we have our health services people there, and they have taken them aside. And I believe in all but one case, when we gave them 20 minutes to sit in a cool area and took their temperature again, it was fine. And in the one other case, our health services people, I don't know what happened because of HIPAA regulations, but our health services people helped that individual figure out what they were going to do. They didn't enter at that point in time. They may have come back later after they went to an urgent care or something else. But it has gone very smoothly. And I would say that our guests have been very supportive of the process. We're not hearing a lot of complaints about that or the masks. I think they're very happy to be able to get out, and they're very happy that having those precautions and screenings in place are making them feel safe.
That's helpful, John. Thank you for sharing. We tried a little pilot with 200. That certainly doesn't give us the same insight that you have with thousands, so I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Dr. Jenkins, if I'm allowed to comment.
Yes, please, Dr. Pino.
So I was thinking about the school this morning. We had a conversation with UCF and some investors and other partners, and they have these thermometers that send the data to the cloud, and you will receive an alert prior to the child coming to the school that there is an elevated temperature, and it tells what to do. So if we can have a private conversation offline, there is something that we thought could be useful for the schools.
That'd be great. Fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pino.
Tim, Chuck has
Chuck has a question.
Yeah, hey, Chuck. I've got a question, follow up on Dr. Jenkins' question. Are you doing the thermometer checks, temperature checks with the handheld thermometer, or are you doing it with the walk-up device that you stand in front of that gives you a green light and you continue onward?
We are using the handheld thermometers right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sprouls, for the presentation. And at this time, we're going to move on, and I'll pass the agenda and the gavel over to George again.